I'm a big believer that you have to keep moving forward. And that means that you have to push past your fears. It's human to feel some fear or anxiety of the unknown. As human beings, we don't like change, but change is the only constant in life.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg. I am Steve Rozenberg, and today is a very special day for me. I have a very good friend of mine, someone who I am honored to call a friend. His name is Lee Labrada. His name and reputation and brand speaks for itself. But what you may not know is the gentleman and kind-hearted person that I've gotten to know, become friends with, and really enjoy some heartfelt conversations over the years with Lee. And I thought it'd be important to have Lee on. Not only is he just an amazing person, an icon, a brand, an entrepreneur, and just all around a great human being. So Lee, it is great to see you, my friend.
It's great to see you, Steve. And thank you for your kind comments in the introduction.
Absolutely. So, it just as a quick 30 seconds, if someone is living on the moon and they don't know who you are, would you mind just giving a brief overview of who Lee Labrada is and what you've done?
Well, what I've accomplished in the past, I'm a former IFBB world champion professional bodybuilder. I am a past winner of the Mr. Universe, the Professional World Championship, ranked top 4 in the world for 7 consecutive years, Bodybuilding Hall of Fame, on the covers of over 100 bodybuilding magazines. And then when I retired from professional bodybuilding, and that was over 30 years ago, I went into the sports nutrition business with Labrada Nutrition. And my company makes those popular lean body protein shakes that you see all over the country. Hey, there you go.
I got one right here.
Yep.
So Lee, I think I know the answer, but I just want to get into the meat of this for the audience. What would you say is the most pivotal decision you have ever made in your adult life?
You know, Steve, I'm probably gonna be a little bit off in left field on that one. Maybe not the answer that you were anticipating, but certainly the most important decision, or maybe one of the top 3 most important decisions I've ever made, was in the choice of a mate. You know, marrying my spouse, Robin. We've been married for over 39 years. We've got 3 boys. We got a granddaughter. And that's probably the most important decision that I ever made. And then there's been important decisions along the way. There were pivotal moments, which I think everybody has in their professional life. And some of those for me included, there was a time in my life when I went to compete in the national championships. I was an aspiring bodybuilder. I wanted to be a professional bodybuilder, and I did not place at the national championships, and I almost quit. And that lasted about 5 minutes. I decided that I was going to charge forward. The following year, I won. And that sent me to the World Championships, the IFBB Mr. Universe, and that allowed me to enter the professional ranks. So that's just one example of how people come to crossroads, and making important decisions is just so critical.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I always wonder, when it comes to people getting up to that precipice and they've got fear of failure, fear of what could go wrong. I always wonder, how many people have we never met in life because they chose to quit?
Yes.
And, I think how important is that? Like, who would Lee Labrada have been?
Yes.
Had you quit that day?
Yeah. Listen, I'm a big believer. That, you have to keep moving forward. And that means that you have to push past your fears. It's human to feel some fear or anxiety of the unknown. As human beings, we don't like change, but change is the only constant in life. And so the better that you get at embracing change and just moving forward in faith, the happier that you are. In fact, I just had this conversation with one of my sons the other day, because he's trying to figure out next steps in his career. And I said, look, you know what? You're like a car that's parked and you're at a intersection. You can go straight, you can go left, you can go right, but you're pulled over on the side of the road and you've got the car in park. The important thing is to pick a direction, even if it's not the perfect direction, even if the timing is not perfect. Conditions will never be perfect for making a change, for taking action. The important thing is to start. I said, take action, pick a direction and go. Because once you get down that road, if you don't like it, okay, you can take another turn. You can go in another direction. But the important thing is to, move forward and move forward in faith. I think that God always opens doors for us.
Yeah, I think that's such a great statement because we kind of get into a habit of always moving forward because it becomes the repetitions. It's like going to the gym.
Sure.
We just get used to those reps.
Sure.
To where I'm not going to say it's natural, but it's more natural than sitting still of the
Sure.
two.
Sure.
And
Yes.
I always wonder to other people that have tried, stopped, quit. I always wonder, is it the fear of failing that stops them or the fact that they don't think they'll succeed, right? Are they running away from fear or running towards a future that they're not sure of? Like I'm always questioning that.
I think that the fear of failure is what keeps a lot of people from starting. I think once they start, though, a lot of times they run out of steam because they don't examine their motives, they don't examine their goals, they don't examine their purpose, and what is driving them to take action daily. And so, you see it like with New Year's resolutions. Everybody starts with, I'm gonna get in shape this year, and they're there for the first week, and then they drop out. So what happened? What happened was that they really didn't have a clear understanding of what their motives and their reasons are. They weren't strong enough, to keep them coming back. So I think that you have to. I think that motivation is something that's highly overrated. Motivation can get you started, but what keeps you going is discipline. And discipline is the ability to do those things that are difficult even when you don't want to. So what propels you to do that? You got to have a strong enough motive or purpose.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: 30 years in the business of Labrada Nutrition, and good times and bad times, like we all have.
Of course.
And I'm sure there have been days that you've woken up and said, "I'm done." Like I don't know. Do I? Like I want to. I don't want to say quitting is the word, but we'll just say quitting. What do you tell yourself? Because you may say, I have enough financial stability. I've got everything. I've got the accolades. Like, what keeps you from quitting to keep getting up every day?
Steve, there's a number of ways that I could answer that. When I was a child, my father would always say, pick a direction and keep putting one foot in front of the next. And I've never forgotten that. That's just kind of part of my psyche. And so I just keep moving forward. I just keep moving forward. I pick a direction and I go. That has served me well in those times of difficulty. When things were tough. In the business, and instead of panicking or having anxiety, I would ask myself, what's the best direction? What is the most important thing I can work on right now? And I would just do my best, put the rest in God's hands, and just start putting one foot in front of the next. So I think that that's one of the things that has really served me well.
And I think that as I'm a product of the public school system, and I think you were too. Not that matters, but I think we are taught to be employees in school because the society needs employees. So being an entrepreneur is outside of our natural training, right? Per se,
right.
We go to college to get a good job, to buy a house, go in debt, all those things. And I think what comes along with that is a certain psychology of money. I think we think about money a certain way because we're trained to be fearful of lack of money, not the abundance of money.
Right.
As you've been building your business over the years, and the revenue has obviously increased from day one to what it is today. How did you how did you think differently about money so that it was more of a tool and not something that was feared of losing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I think the fear of losing money is tied into the fear for our safety, the fear of survival. Once upon a time, our ancestors used to have to chase down an animal if they wanted to eat, or they had to grow something if they wanted to eat. Now you go to work and you earn your daily bread, and that's what feeds you. That's what takes care of your family. So the fear of that, yeah, I think, is what keeps people a lot of times from becoming an entrepreneur. Just to tie it back into something that you brought up, yes, the way that the system is set up is to study, to make certain grades, to pass, and then you go on to the next year. If you pass that grade, you go on to the next year. Finally, you graduate with a degree, and then if you want, you move on and you go to college, and et cetera. So it's all systematized, and from there, people go and they get a job, with a corporation. And it used to be that that was something that was more dependable. People thought, okay, well, that's the safe way of doing things. It's the less risky way, but it's less risky than starting a business of my own. But my answer to that is, that there's risk involved in working for somebody else as well. What if
Sure.
the company goes out of business? What if you make your boss angry one day, or you have a situation, or they do layoffs? So you see, it's a false sense of security. There's really risk in that as well. And I can tell you that going the route of being an entrepreneur is a way for us to live in a very fulfilled way, and is often more motivating, than working for a company. I realize that not everybody can go out there and do their own thing. They're just not built that way. They just feel better while working for a company, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, with the exception of 2 years. When I first got out of college, that I worked as an engineer.
Now, when we have to evolve, right? What you did at 100,000 in revenue versus a million, and so on and so forth. We have to mentally change. Was there ever a time when maybe a thought that you had, was going to cost you the business or cost you revenue because a past belief or identity will say that you were carrying forward, that you're like, I got to change me because this is not going to work in this future business model?
Yeah, we came to a crossroads. At one point when I launched Labrada Nutrition. We had a business model, a certain business model that was direct to customer. And after about a year of losing money, I was literally writing checks to the business instead of the business writing checks to me. After about a year of that, I realized that we were burning through our life savings, and I sat my wife down and I said, "Look, I've got to change the business model, and we got to start over. Or I can go and I can take a job someplace, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So do you want to go for it?" And she said, "Let's go for it." And so we relaunched Labrada Nutrition with a different business model, which is to sell to distributors that then sell to retailers and then sell to customers. The a traditional distribution model as we know it. And that was successful for us. But the long and short of it is that I realized after about a year of being in business that I couldn't just keep doing what I was doing, because hard work does pay off, but it's hard work that is pointed in a certain direction with a certain motive and a certain reason. Give you an example. Digging ditches is hard work, but I can dig ditches all day long, and I'm not going to get ahead. I might make a living, but I'm not going to get ahead, right? But if I dig ditches just long enough to save up money to buy a steam shovel, and then I put that steam shovel to work, and then I can grow that into a contracting business. You see what I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
you have to have the ability to adapt along the way.
So, like, when you have these challenges, right? I mean, we all have them, and whether it's an employee challenge or a systemization or the economy, like how does Lee Labrada do a reset? How do you wake up and go, okay, Is it a standard? Is it reactionary based on the circumstances? Do you have
No,
a,
I don't like reactionary anything,
right?
because I think that reactionary decisions put you straight in the emotional zone, and people don't make good decisions when they let their emotions overrule their logic. So hopefully by this time, I'm not in a position, in my business where I'm having to react to anything. It's more of planning, planning ahead, planning next steps, and putting systems in place as you're fond of. You're very fond of systems, so am I. If this happens, then we do this. If that happens, we do this. So I think that if you preempt those moments by carefully thinking through what you would do in the different situations, you can lay out a game plan and work that rather than to be reactionary.
So if you were talking to like a young entrepreneur that was trying to get into a business, like obviously I believe systems are the backbone of anything that we do. It doesn't matter. I also think creating revenue, as we know, having a marketing and sales, and then being able to duplicate yourself. These are all essential steps in the process. But if a young entrepreneur came to you and said, "Hey, Lee, I want to start a business," what would you have them do first? Like in your mind, if you were going to mentor someone, what would you say this is vital step one, and then how would you cascade that down?
Step one really is you have to find a need that needs to be filled. Okay, people buy solutions to their problems or to their needs. So if everybody is making black widgets and there's a minority piece of the market, a small piece of the market that wants red widgets, and you step in and you make red widgets, you got a customer base that's waiting for you. So the idea there is to find a need and then find the best way to fulfill it. Study, ahead of time, what business am I going to go into? Who is my target demographic? Okay, how am I going to fill their needs, their desires? And then, who is competing in that space and what can I do to differentiate myself? I would say that that is key right off the bat. Second thing is keep overhead as low as possible. If you're a young entrepreneur, you got to keep your overhead as low as possible because, again, it's not what you gross, it's not what you make, it's what you net, it's what you take home. That keeps you going, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then how important is it? And I'm sure when you started, you did not, or maybe you did, foresee what Labrada Nutrition would be today, right? I'm sure you thought it would be big and it would be bigger than it was. How important is it for people to visualize where they're going to take a company, knowing that it could change and it could pivot? I get that, but do you think that's important? The visualization of where it's going and actually putting pen to paper on that?
I think you have to start with a vision. I think that it's good to put pen to paper. It's good to have, it's good to have huge long distance goals. Like I want to grow my company to $100 million. Okay, well that's a great destination, but first you got to grow your company into next year. Okay,
Sure.
so where are you at now, and what are you going to do to bring in revenue over the next year? So I'm really big on planning, and establishing not just long-term goals, but short-term goals as well. Listen, Steve, we started out of a little 2,000 square foot office warehouse space. It was myself, a couple of employees. My wife was doing the books at night after I would get home. We would put the kids to bed. She'd go up there and do the books. My dad, God bless him, God rest his soul. He was in the warehouse, putting together orders, and then we would deliver orders out of the back of our cars, to local supplement stores and smoothie joints and that kind of thing. So at that time, yeah, we wanted to be a big business. We did not know how to get there. But, as the old Asian saying goes, the step of 1,000 miles starts with, or the start of a journey of 1,000 miles is the first step. It's just one step.
Right.
You keep putting one foot in front of the next. And listen, we made every mistake in the book. You're going to make mistakes. If you're an entrepreneur and you're just starting out, you're going to make mistakes. But you just have to be flexible enough to pivot and change.
So Labrada family name, and I know you have family members in the business. Like, what does that mean to you? Like having family involved and having that family name, and like for you as the legacy, what's that why about?
So, the reason that we're in business is to help people to change their lives, to change the condition that they're in, and get into the best shape of their life, stay healthy for life. That's our why. The fact that we have our family working in it, and I have my sons working in the business in various capacities, and you even have my brother-in-law and my sister working here in various capacities. But I will tell you that. That being a family business, I believe the crucial piece of it is that there can be no infighting. We really have a very special dynamic, a very good communication. They're very intelligent, motivated people. They do what they're supposed to do, and we have open communication, which I think is important. I think when you get in trouble is when you start putting people in positions that they really have no business being in, that they're not capable of doing. And then you get the accusations of nepotism and those kind of things from the employees. So you have to be careful. It's a balancing act. But for us, it's great because being a family business, it allows us to make decisions together. It allows us to focus on those things that are important for propagating the name and the legacy.
Now, when it comes to the name and the brand, over the years, and I know that you've done an amazing job of keeping that so precise. How hard was that as you were growing the company, hiring people that they may not even know who Lee Labrada was? They maybe heard of you, the name, but not know what it's about and the
Sure.
importance of the branding, the logo, the culture. Like how hard is that to keep that going?
Yeah, the culture is it's a living, breathing thing. So when we first started out, we made some mistakes in hiring, and those people are no longer here. But every time that you go through something like that, it's uncomfortable, but you learn, and after a while, you get very good at vetting people and making sure that their principles, their outlooks are in alignment with yours and those of the company. And then what happens is magic, because you get a company in which everybody is running in the same direction, everybody's motivated, but it's something that has to be nurtured. I'll tell you, Steve, our average tenure for one of our staff here at Labrada Nutrition is over 15 years. And I have several people that have been here 25 years, one that's been here 30 years. We also have the youngsters, and we love those. We bring them in, we train them up. Have people that have been here 6 months, a year, 5 years, but they all have to meet that criteria, and their personality traits, the willingness to help other people, the intelligence, emotional intelligence, being able to work well with others, and just to push the mission that we have.
Yeah. So, I being there and seeing it is amazing what a great job you've done on the culture, and
Thank you, thank you.
it's
And
very
that's
prominent.
that's not just me. That's a team effort. The
Yeah.
entire team contributes to that culture.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Society. I know RFK Jr. just got in for the health position. What's your thoughts of society today and how they take their health? There's the easy button of maybe liposuction versus a 12-month gym membership.
Sure.
There's medicines that people take. Like, what's your overall take on that and how we are as a society? And
You
I'm
know,
just curious your take.
I think you find just all types, in terms of how they approach their health. I think that the young, especially, tend to take their health for granted, and hence end up with bad eating habits or drinking habits, drug habits, whatever, and they end up overweight and unhealthy. And then because they're not willing to put in the work, they look for an easy out, a diet drug or something like that. Then I'm optimistic that there are a growing number of people that realize that what they eat and their lifestyle impacts their health more than anything, and are making changes. And I think that in our society today versus 30 years ago, there's more of an awareness and a push to educate people on, hey, what's good for you, what's not. At least it's out there and it's available. And it's being promoted. So that people have an opportunity. Versus 30 years ago, 40 years ago, where it was just a small subset of the population that knew anything about exercise and diet.
It's interesting, Lee, because as you were talking, I was thinking in my mind, with the immediate gratification and information age we're in, people know more about nutrition and about eating healthy. And maybe it's just me, but I feel like people were healthier before. So they
Right.
have more information and they're not as healthy with the information. So it's like information is not the key to being successful. What do you think? I mean,
I think information in and of itself it's just potential. It can't do anything in and of itself. People say that knowledge is power. I say that knowledge applied is power. Knowledge put into action is power. This is why you have all this information out there. You still have a lot of unhealthy people. Listen, back when I was in high school 40 years ago, there weren't any heavy kids. There might be one or two, but everybody was pretty thin. There's no doubt that our society's eating habits have gotten worse and people have become more sedentary. So why is that? What are some of the social issues that are at play, on a macro level, that are causing people to be, more overweight and out of shape? You have to ask yourself those things.
And how much of it, and I think I already know the answer, but I look at your kids, right? Very healthy. One of them amazingly healthy, number 4 in the world, I believe, in bodybuilding.
In professional bodybuilding, that's right.
Yeah. So how much of that lies on the parents' responsibility, do you think? Because obviously there's a big part of who they are because of you, right?
Sure.
That's
sure.
Do you think they abdicate that?
Steve, I think that there is a huge benefit for kids being shown by example at home what is healthy to eat and what is not, because they are just sponges. They are parents. They are sponging off you every second. They're watching you. What you say, how you behave. What is considered good food at home. Does the parent exercise? All those things are examples that kids do watch and that kids pattern themselves off of. So I think it starts at home.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask you this, and we'll kind of start winding down here on the questions. What do you want your family to say about you? Like, let's just say it's time, you're sunsetting, maybe transitioning on. What do you want them to say about Lee Labrada?
I would like to be remembered as a man who cared about them, my family, as a man who taught them, and I would like to be remembered as a person who loved other people and contributed to society and served God.
I love it, man. I love it, brother. All right, I got a couple of quick question answers that you just, whatever comes to mind, you just tell me what you think. All right.
Okay, I'm going to grab my cup of coffee for this.
Yep, go ahead. So,
all right, Steve, I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. What is a personal non-negotiable for you when it comes to being the successful version of yourself?
Integrity. So integrity is simply defined for me is that I behave the same when I am by myself, and I think that nobody can see me, as I act when I'm with you or with my children or my wife or anybody else. So integrity is a non-negotiable.
I love that. Is there a book that you've ever read that changed your life that you still remember to this day?
There are several. I'm going to start with the good book, the Bible. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if you go into Proverbs, there are so many lessons there on a personal level, even on a business level. I would also then say, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And then I would say Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Nice. I like that. Any right now personal obsessions, whether it's business or personal, that you're just kind of dialing in on, and that is your obsession currently?
So our direction currently is to go from the island to the mainland. Let me explain. So we have the number one best-selling protein shake in America in gyms. That's lean body. We're number one in the gyms. And now we want to go from that island, we want to go to the mainland, which is to say the grocery stores, the convenience stores, the mass market outlets. We are in over 40,000 convenience stores across the United States now, and we are growing. So that is our main thrust, to get lean body into as many hands of people as we can to help them to get healthy and to get into great shape.
Got it. What scares you more? Wasted potential or not even, like, just not caring?
I think they're both horrible, but I'm going to start with not caring, because if you're talking about just, not caring, like anything that I do, it doesn't matter anyway. I think that is just a horribly wrong outlook on life. Life is beautiful. We're given life every day as a gift, and it is our responsibility to make the most of that. And then, I'm sorry, Steve, the other one, one was not caring, and the other one was unfulfilled potential. I believe that everyone is given gifts, and I believe that it's our responsibility to explore those and to develop those.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I don't like that one either, ignoring your potential.
No, I agree.
I think I say that for all those young people out there, man. I mean, it's like,
I know.
You got, it's just everybody is, they have gifts. They're so gifted. They just got to find those and develop them. And they have to start with the enthusiasm,
Yeah. And listen, I think that, you and I think are very standardized people. We create standards, and, my standard, my non-negotiable for me is going to the gym. That's how we are.
Sure.
And I'll get up at 3:45 in the morning and I go to the gym. That's my non-negotiable. And
yep.
It's funny because people will tell me, they're like, Steve, I don't know how you do it. And my answer to them is, I don't know how you don't. So I guess we're even.
That's right.
It
becomes part of you. And listen, guys, for those of you that don't already know, Steve is a commercial airline pilot, a really good one, flies the 777s, and as soon as he lands in any international city, the first thing that he does is he shoots off that plane to the local gym. I don't know how he does it after an 18-hour flight, but he does. And so that is really, really hardcore. And that's one of the reasons we get along so well is, because we're just so high energy. We love working out. And, to me, it's just part of my psyche after 50 years of doing it. It's just part of me, man.
Yeah. It's like, did you breathe today? Yeah. Well, then I worked out. Yeah. That's the analogy of it for me.
That's about it.
Well, Lee, thank you so much, brother. It was great having you on. And as always, you have so much knowledge and insight. And I just, your who you are shines through your product. It shines through everything that you do. And you're going to record an album, right?
We are. But before I go to the album, I just want to say, Steve, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here with you today. You are like one of the top 3 most high energy, optimistic people that I know, and I love that about you. You're an evangelist of optimism. So I just love that about you. So thank you for having me on the show. And then, yes, I was mentioning to you earlier, we're actually going to be flying up to New York and recording our 5th album. The Labrada Band. We're on Spotify if any of you guys want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's cool. I have.
Yeah. So it'll be a lot of fun.
All right, Lee. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the show. And for those of you that are hearing this, if this resonated with you, please share it to other people. We don't run ads on these. We don't do any of that stuff because we want to make sure that we're authentic. And we just want to make sure that we're giving back at the end of the day. And if this helped you and it resonated with you, please share it. And if there's a subject you want, send me a message, and I'm sure I could probably get the person on and make the subject happen. So on behalf of Lee and myself, I want to thank you for watching High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.